Okay, welcome to Northwest Unitarian Universalist Congregation, where we are gathered this morning both virtually and in person as one connected community. I'm Tom Ott, my pronouns are he and him, and I'm your worship associate, or worship leader for this morning's service. If you're a visitor online and would like Northwest to stay in touch with you, please fill out the visitor form appearing in the chat box. And if you're here with us in person, you can fill out the visitor form, a visitor sign-in form in the atrium. So now we can greet our neighbors with a wave from wherever you are. Okay, we have, as usual, a few announcements to share with you. You'll find more information about Northwest and its events in the weekly newsletter and on our website. First of all, yesterday, January 20th, the group got together to discuss the order of services for both here at Northwest and at Detroit. The group examined what parts of the service were unique to each congregation, what parts were shared, and how the rhythm of the service felt for each. It was an amazing flow of ideas, and both congregations found areas of improvement to deepen worship and ritual in the order of service. Over the next several weeks, you may notice some changes in the service. These are not final changes, but rather experiments to see what works, how things feel, and how we can continue to adapt and change. We will welcome your feedback on these changes and encourage you to reach out to the ministry to share your thoughts. And sort of coincidentally, you'll notice on your seats a survey form about the music. There are two sides of it. One is for musicians, which if you read it also includes people who sing, singers who would like to share be part of the service, to fill that out. The second part for favorite hymns, the rest of us like me who do not play instruments and I don't want to hear myself sing, but what are your favorite hymns? You can fill them out and put them in the collection plate when we pass the collection. Yes, both. Yeah, the second side for both people. Yes. Yes, everybody can fill out the second side. Okay. Next, a dialogue on race and ethnicity. ADORE is a monthly gathering to have a dialogue about race and ethnicity. So today, after the service, we will discuss the HBO Max documentary, South to Black Power. For those in person, we will meet in room C, and if you're with us online, you're invited to join a breakout room and then return to the main session at 12 p.m. and get the conversation started. Next, the congregational meeting, the next one will be next week on Sunday, January 28th at 12:30 p.m. We'll be electing members to our Board of Governors and affirming some other leadership positions during this meeting. And I also want to, this I think was announced last week, but at Detroit, the boards of Northwest UU and the First UU of Detroit have entered into an 18-month contract from January 2023 through June of 2024 rather, current month, through June of 2025 with the Reverend Julie Brock to serve as the minister of both congregations. Now, before we begin the prelude, let's all take a brief breath and settle into a time of worship.
We begin our worship services with a land acknowledgement. We honor and pay our respects to the land on which we live and work, which was violently stolen through colonialism, genocide, and forced removal of its traditional stewards. These stewards are the Anishinaabeg, the Council of the Three Fires, which include the Ottawa, Ojibwe, Potawatomi, also known as Ottawa, Chippewa, and Potawatomi tribes. We also acknowledge the people of African descent who were forcibly removed from their land and separated from their families through kidnapping and enslavement, and pay reverence and respect to them for building this country's infrastructure and economy with no compensation or reparations to date.
Our chalice lighting today is "In This Time of Uncertainty" by the Reverend Amy Williams Clark. We light our chalice, the symbol of our faith, knowing this morning that many other Unitarian Universalist congregations across this land and around the world are doing the same. So let us consider the words of the Reverend Amy Williams Clark. We gather in this time of uncertainty, full of unknowns, as angst closes in upon us. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the dankness of isolation and are warmed by the fires of our interconnection. For this moment, this radical moment, we find a certainty within the knowable bonds of love and community. You're now invited to rise in body or spirit and join in singing the first hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit.
Leo Leone. A happy school of little fish lived in a corner of the sea somewhere. They were all red. Only one of them was as black as a mussel shell. He swam faster than his brothers and sisters. His name was Swimmy. One bad day, a tuna fish, swift, fierce, and very hungry, came darting through the waves. In one gulp, he swallowed all the little red fish. Only Swimmy escaped. He swam away in the deep, wet world. He was scared, lonely, and very sad. But the sea was full of wonderful creatures, and as he swam from marvel to marvel, Swimmy was happy again. He saw a Medusa made of rainbow jelly, a lobster who walked about like a water-moving machine, strange fish pulled by an invisible thread, a forest of seaweeds growing from sugar candy rocks, an eel whose tail was almost too far away to remember, and sea anemones who looked like pink palm trees swaying in the wind. Then, hidden in the dark shade of rocks and weeds, he saw a school of little fish, just like his own. "Let's go and swim and play and see things," he said happily. "We can't," said the little red fish. "The big fish will eat us all." "But you can't just lie there," said Swimmy. "We must think of something." Swimmy thought and thought and thought. Then suddenly he said, "I have it! We are going to swim all together like the biggest fish in the sea." He taught them to swim close together, each in his own place. And when they had learned to swim like one giant fish, he said, "I'll be the eye." And so they swam in the cool morning water and in the midday sun and chased the big fish away. The end. Hope you enjoyed this story read by me, Star. Until next time, keep reading.
Good morning. Now that all of the kids are going to go to their groups with their teachers, and we're going to sing them out in a minute. And we're going to carry a chalice with us and remind us of the flame that we had here in the sanctuary. Could I have Uriah come up and carry the chalice today? You may rise. We will sing the children out.
One purpose of a religious community is to encourage all who gather together to grow more generous in spirit and in action. This is the great end of all the world's faith traditions, to bring the human being closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. We now take an offering that allows us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit, an offering that will mutually support this self-supporting congregation and the shared plate recipient. Every other month throughout the year, Northwest shares 50% of the plate collections with the Southfield Emergency Needs Fund. Their goal is to help residents overcome personal hurdles to achieve a satisfying and productive quality of life. Human Services is a vision of Southfield community relations. You can do so in a variety of ways that are now visible on your screen. And for those here in person, we will pass a collection basket for checks and cash. And if you filled it out, you can put your survey form in there. If you didn't have a pen, this isn't half, but if you finished it, you can start it out.
We light a candle for everything spoken today, and we will light a candle for everything left unsaid. Know that we hold you with us. Sources of radiance and resilience, keep watch with those who work or watch or weep this night. May the suffering be soothed. May the sick be tended. May the weary find rest. May the dying and those who love them find peace. May the joyous be shielded. And may we all know that we are surrounded in a love that is with us always, a web that connects us to all that exists. May we take a few moments of silence to be with each other in this sacred space. We will come out singing.
Our reading today is an excerpt from God Gave Me a Word by the Reverend Amy Petrie Shaw. And a word was hung around my neck to take out to the people standing in the streets, and the word was love. So I'm taking my word out into this world. Love made it clear that it was the word for the poor and the brokenhearted, for the queer boy and the angry girl. Love was the word for all of the screwed up and pushed over and too tired and I can't take no more. Love was the word for the HIV patient and the man with no papers. Love was the word for me and for you, for the saints and the sinners and the scramblers in between. You're now invited to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 299, Make Channels for the Streams of Love.
I don't think I said good morning. Good morning. A catalyst, a substance that increases the rate of chemical reaction without itself undergoing any chemical change. Hang on to that. It's going to be important later. I'm sick of hearing about love. That's really hard for me to say, but it's true. These days when I hear about love, all I feel is frustration. I have so many questions when love is presented as a cure-all. What kind of love? What does this love include? Is it coming from me, you? Do you have a secret store of it somewhere? And I don't know where this frustration came from. So I'm an introspective person. I'm not jaded, normally. I mean, I've never had an easy relationship with love, the concept of it, I guess. A lot of people my age grew up with Disney fairy stories. You know, boy meets girl, girl gets cursed, boy saves girl, happily ever after. I don't think I'm unique in the way when I realize that that story wasn't for me. Through no uncertain terms, the world told me that I was not fairy tale material. Prince Charming wasn't coming for me. Maybe the ugly stepsister role instead? All right, so that fantasy bubble solidly burst. I made it out okay, even if it was a little bit of a reality check. It helped me realize that it was a fantasy, this romance, not realistic and probably a little bit unhealthy. So I decided that I was going to look for the real kind of love, true and realistic romance, except for the fact that I came out as gay and everyone told me that the love I felt wasn't real love. It didn't count. Okay, message received, thank you. But I've done a lot of work. I'm healing from that and doing much better, so I don't think it's fair for me to blame the past. Maybe it's the present, the current, everything. Too often when we hear about love, it is also only romantic love that we hear about, but it's a sellable, marketable love. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it. I saw a chicken nugget ad that talked about self-love the other day. Our favorite thing to do is take something as expansive, complex, nuanced, and messy as this concept of love and put it into a neat little package. So when I say I'm tired of hearing about love, what I think I'm tired of is it being the end of the conversation. All you need is love, love is all you need, right? It just doesn't have teeth for me anymore. It doesn't comfort me to say, oh, we just need to come back to love and it will be all right, because it isn't. And it won't. It's a hard realization for me to come to talk about up here, because I can feel the love of this place. It's in every brick, every pane of glass, every rip in the carpet. It surrounds everything that this congregation does, and it weaves itself in and out, threading together everything. Am I really gonna stand up here and vilify love? Yeah, I am. Love as an answer has become too easy. For me, maybe it has for you too. It's muscle memory. Oh, we have a problem, how do we fix it? Boom, love, done, next. And if there's anything I've learned from my own spiritual journey, it's that if I'm comfortable, I'm missing something. How many types of love can you think of? I said romantic, what are some others? Platonic? Puppy? Never mind, I'm leaving. That's the best kind of love, we're done, we're good. Pure? Mother? Familial? What was that? Community love? Now listen. What? Agape? Tough? Okay, these are wonderful. So we're seeing that there's many, many types of love, right? Whoever said community love, can you give me a succinct, universal, accessible description of what community love means? You don't have to, I'm kidding. The problem with love as an ending is that it's not the end. When we're talking about the big things, grief, hurt, pain, and strife, we can't just stop at love because it doesn't actually answer anything. This week, I had the distinct pleasure of participating in a gathering of ministry professionals put on by the Institute of Advanced Pastoral Studies. We had around 30 people, 15 from Detroit and 15 from Atlanta, Georgia. And this was an ecumenical gathering. I was the only Unitarian. That made things interesting. We were there to talk about how to address complex problems in our spaces as faith leaders. The technical term that we used was adaptive leadership. And it's how you address those problems that you can't fix with technical expertise or Ben. How do you address issues that logic can't touch? How do you address issues with opposing factions with no easy answers? All of us were tossed into complex case studies to evaluate and discern what solutions were possible, and not once, as much as we wanted to, could we just stop on, well, they just need to love each other more. Love is a simple solution and therefore not a solution. It was never the end of the conversation. However, in every conversation, one of us would go, whoa, 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 where is the love here? Some of us called it by other names, asking, where is God? Where is faith? Where is trust? But all of us understood this common language. These people that we were reading about were in conflict, and they absolutely needed love. But it wasn't all. They needed so much more. Love wouldn't keep the lights on in their building. Love wouldn't heal the grief of loss of their mentor. I'm not saying it wasn't needed. I'm just saying it wasn't enough. When we sit back as individuals or a community and say, oh, this is easy, we'll just heal it with love, what exactly are we saying? To me, it sounds really similar to thoughts and prayers. As a sentiment, there's nothing wrong with it. But if it's all we're doing, we are falling short on our commitment as Unitarians. Having love, being loving is a comfort, and I'm not standing up here asking you to abandon love. What I'm saying is that love is a tool and we are not using it properly. It's a support beam that we're trying to use as a hammer and a wrench and every other tool in between. Love is a principle, not a destination. While I was on this trip, the group of us traveled into very snowy, very icy, very cold Brooklyn. And we were meeting with the Nehemiah Project. This project has been going on for 40 years in the heart of Brooklyn and has built affordable housing for the community there, single homes, multifamily homes, apartments, as well as senior living. They built it on what used to be called the killing fields. That can start to give you a picture of what this neighborhood looked like back in the 70s and 80s. It was a trash heap. The city just came and dumped garbage there. And as our host candidly pointed out, a little bit too candidly for the rest of us, also bodies. They gathered together to figure out what to do. And they didn't do it by loving real hard. They did it through community. We had to split up the group into two, and my tour guide, I'm so blessed to have him, his name was Lawrence Bell. He was the operations manager of the project. He was also someone who grew up around the corner in the Pink House projects of Brooklyn, and at 14 was incarcerated wrongfully for 30 plus years. As he was showing us around, he spoke from love. It was undeniable. He was so passionate that he had to keep cutting himself off because he knew we were tight on time, and he had so many stories to tell. Love was his catalyst. It is a substance that accelerated his reaction to the injustice he saw in his neighborhood, in his life. His love remained unchanged, but as he spoke, he made it clear that his foundational elements did not change either. He didn't shy away from his past, his incarceration, and instead used it as fuel for the fire. He brought himself back to this community that was working for change. As we were making our way back from one of the homeowners that gratefully opened up her home for us, I asked him, Lawrence, have you ever heard about the Unitarian principles? He said, no. I said, the first one was the inherent worth and dignity of every living thing, in brief. He paused and he was very interested. And I said I was bringing it up because of what they had accomplished here. And it was so striking that everything was built from dignity in mind. Too often housing projects are the bare minimum. Degrade everything and you'll be happy with it. The Nehemiah Project built beautiful, wonderful, well-built homes for this neighborhood. This project and Lawrence were tapping into something special. Lawrence said, yes, it was about dignity. His love of his community and his love of people drove him towards dignity. That morning before we took off, Bishop Rob Wright had asked us, what do you want? This was a more modern translation of Jesus asking, wilt thou be made whole? He was asking us, what does our love and our faith take us towards? What is the work? What is it driving us to do? How do we make love a verb? How do we use this tool in our tool belt? And when he asked this, there was an immediate pullback of the room. Some because of the word want, some because of the word you, me, because when he asked me, what do I want? Immediately I thought of all the ways that I couldn't do it. Before this trip, I was reading Maxima Moralia, Meditations on the Otherness by Ramin Jahanbegloo. He's a student of Gandhi and nonviolence. He says, our age is essentially one of mediocrity without passion. Nowadays, not even desperation can give meaning to our lives. The word success has become our banner, along with many other meaningless concepts. In the present age, of course, it would be out of the question to think. The motto of today's world is, we were born not to think, but to succeed. Success stopped me of dreaming of what I wanted. More clearly, the fear of failure. But it was in the way he spoke of that Ramin spoke of love that pulled me back on track here. He says, to what extent can we talk about love in our age of mediocrity? Perhaps the misinterpretation of love is so great that it keeps us from loving and being loved. Even a simple kiss is corrupted by our political correctness. The more sanitized is the love that we teach our children, the less they know about love and how to seduce their senses. What can love say when there is no beloved community? The paradox of love is that its true ground is itself. In other words, love is the question and the answer. While we may be short on other resources, love is not one of them. Not here. I have felt it showered upon me as a newcomer, and I see it thriving every day. It's clear we have enough fuel, but what are we doing with it? What are we putting it towards? What do we want? If love is our compass, where is it pointing us? What do we want? When we let go of the concern for success, the Nehemiah Project has been around for 40 years and they have not claimed we have been successful. They keep going and going and going. It was action rather than the promise of success that kept them going. The work that kept them going. So what do we want? What are we called here to do? It's not enough to come and be affirmed that we are loving. It is something, but it is not enough. We cannot rely on sola amare, love alone. Love is a necessary spark, but what are we giving it to catch on to? That answer is going to be different for every person in this room. But there are constants when we're together in community that I think we can rely on. We can rely on the strength of one another. That when I am tired, you will pull me up, and when you are tired, I will pull you up. Where I lack, you have, and where you lack, I have. I trust that I can be imperfect with you and complete with you, and you with me. That when we fracture, we mend with all that love we have. And when we are not enough, when even our combined tenacity and strength as a community is not enough, I trust that we will reach out to other communities. We will reach across the aisle. I spent a week in a room with people that if we really got down to it, we could find all the ways we disagreed. I'm sure that my theology and the theology of a Baptist minister differ greatly. But the moment we came together in that room, that wasn't what it was about. We were way more interested, amused, and enthralled by the ways that we were the same. Lawrence and I have very little in common. But when we looked at these beautiful homes and the neighborhood that had been built and was still being built, we found the ways we were the same, that dignity was something that drove us to change and work and suffer and grow. Love is our catalyst. It has and will continue to seep into all the cracks and crevices of our community. It is not something that anyone can draw out. It's too late for that. It's bone deep. No one can take love away from us. But what are we going to create together? There's a saying, to create today is to create dangerously, and I agree. It feels dangerous when we step outside a comforting mantra. And the work that I know you want to do can feel dangerous when it is against this growing empire outside our door that we are trying to fight against. This deep love that I feel, this love of community, makes it impossible for me to say no to the work. Willst thou be made whole? What do we want to create together? Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in singing our hymn 348, Guide My Feet.
Our chalice extinguishing words are responsive, so please repeat after me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of hope. The warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
We meet and part every week in love. Let that be the catalyst for what we do next. Ask yourselves and each other what the work is, all the while seeing the worth, dignity, and love that fills us all. Let the love of this community be so great it has no choice but to spill out into action to change the world. Go in peace, go in love. Amen, and may it ever be so.